body wants to heal, because the skin wants to heal. You could probably find balance and clear up your skin, but there's ways to do that a lot faster. We can influence the microbiome of the skin. We can create a healthy ecosystem. You really have to assess what's the best thing for you.
From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacy Phillips. As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. Part of our manifestation process entails expanding past your limiting subconscious beliefs. Therefore, by tuning into this podcast with interviews from experts, thought leaders, spiritual teachers, scientists, and those with neural manifestation success stories, you're starting the process of expanding your subconscious in order to see to believe that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. Jessica here. We have another really exciting episode for you. And one topic that Lacy and I are both really, really passionate about is learning more and more about the science of how to do things the cleanest, greenest, most sustainable out there, and the most holistic natural approach. And one topic we have been dying to dive into is skincare. So today we have on Kristina Holey, who is a holistic skincare specialist dedicated to furthering the understanding of skin and its relationship to the rest of the body. She is known for getting to the root of her clients' symptoms with their skin and helping them find a path to healing that factors in both their individual makeup and the integral health of their entire system. She's a scientist by trade and applies that experimental approach to both her skincare treatment and product development. She joined the Marie Veronique team full-time in 2021 with the desire to dedicate advancements to understanding and the best treatments for skincare from a holistic perspective. In her role as director of skin health, she's helping leading the brand's existing product offerings to be the cleanest and most holistic for the skin and body. So we really have a mini masterclass on holistic skincare. We're covering everything. Lacy and Kristina in part 1 of this mini masterclass are diving into understanding adult acne, root causes for skin issue, rosacea, eczema, topical product recommendations that she thinks are very, very vital that we need to have in our system to support our skin. Because one of the things I actually learned recently is that when we take vitamins, it first goes to all of our organs and necessities. And the last place that it winds up going is our skin and then our hair and nails. So when we wind up losing our hair or our nails aren't growing, it's because the vitamins are being so absorbed by everything else that our system's needing that it's not making its way there. So she talks about the importance of vitamin supplementation on the skin, like vitamin C, B3, etc. They talk about external versus internal symbiosis, influencing your skin on a cellular level, sun damage prevention, sunscreen guidance, and all about the power of retinol and its importance to skincare. What I love about Kristina's approach and what we're diving into in this part 1 is it's so science-backed but approachable in the fact that I feel like I'm actually learning how to approach and view and understand skincare without just throwing on a ton of different products. And with everything else, when we talk about anything with health issues, these are just suggestions. It's for entertainment purposes, but we highly suggest you consult your own dermatologist, skincare expert who can help create a system and product regimen that is perfect and unique for your skin as well. And since Kristina works with Marie Veronique, they're offering a code for 15% off their products with the code TBM15. Be sure to check it out in the show notes. And one other thing I want to mention is we are kicking off the monthly check-in, which is our brand new workshop that we launched in the Pathway, with a monthly check-in call next Tuesday, November 8th at 5 p.m. PST with Lacy and I, where we're really going to allow you to have a check-in with us, understand more about why the monthly check-in is so important, how we're utilizing this new tool, how it's going to super speed your manifestation process, help you become your own pattern reader, and also answer any questions you may have around that. So be sure to stay tuned for that. The link to join the live is for Pathway members only. You can find it in the monthly check-in portal in your login. And we have a huge announcement for you guys. We have officially launched a brand new platform for our TBM members, and it comes with an incredible mobile app experience. This is honestly our biggest manifestation at To Be Magnetic. This is something that you guys have requested since the beginning of time, honestly. And now you have this really up-level digital experience. You can download the content. You can save the DIs for on the go. You can schedule reminders. You can schedule workshops. You can create playlists with your favorite DIs or workshop days, your favorite journal prompts. And we've added a brand new workshop, the monthly check-in, 2 new DIs, Trust Muscle, monthly check-in DI, and a new daily journaling check-in prompt as well. It's stacked, and we are so excited to be launching that to you guys. So if you are a current Pathway member, you should have received an email with the subject line TBM Mobile App Early Access. This contains instructions on how to sign up for the new platform so that you can access the app and move over from our old platform that we're going to be discontinuing over the next year. And when you make the switch from the old platform to the new one that has the app, you will be guaranteed to switch over at your current rate for another year. So if you're not ready to make that commitment, no worries at all. You can continue to enjoy your membership on the old platform until the end of term. But if you're ready to switch over early and utilize this amazing app, you can do so now. We have FAQs and videos and all the things in our community group of how to make this switch. We're trying to make it as smooth and easy as possible, but we are limited by some things. So since this is an entirely new platform, you will need to create a new account. You can't just download the app at the App Store and log in with your current membership. You have to create a new membership portal. So your old login credentials will not work there in the current TBM app. But if you are not a member of the Pathway yet and have been wanting to sign up, now is an incredible time. You can also download the app from the App Store to kind of get a sneak peek. What does it look like in there? How is it? And then you can go to the link on our website to sign up for it, create a login for the desktop version, and then use that same login to log into the app and get all access. We cannot wait for you guys to check this out. We are just so excited. And I really have to give such a big shout out to the entire To Be Magnetic team. We have been working nonstop to bring this to you guys. And we are just so excited to really up-level your process with the manifestation work.
And now a word from our partners. Seed Probiotic, who we have partnered with now for about a year and love and are obsessed with, and we think it's obviously the best probiotic on the market, has finally come out with Pediatric Daily Symbiotic, which is for children ages 3 to 17, and it has 9 probiotic strains and a fiber-based prebiotic. The beautiful thing is there's no refrigeration necessary. So for someone like us who's on the go and about our land, no refrigeration necessary is really appealing, especially in the form of a children's probiotic. And for those of you who have really sensitive children, it's really beautiful because it's free from 14 classes of allergens and additives, which we know are really rampant now. So it's completely sugar-free, soy-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free, and sesame-free. And if anybody has a picky eater or a texture picky kid, it's really cool because you actually just tear open their extremely sustainable packaging. And you can add it to any smoothie, any drink, yogurt, whatever you're going to be feeding them, and mix it right in. And the beautiful thing is it's part of the entire system, like all of seed probiotic, where it's completely engineered to survive. So one of the only probiotics out there that is scientifically proven to make it all the way to the targeted area in your gut. And last but not least, they're 5 grams of prebiotic fiber per serving. So for myself, who is gearing up to start weaning soon in preparation for the next pregnancy, I'm sitting here wondering where the probiotics are going to come from for Teddy. You know, my milk is obviously so rich in probiotics, but this is the beautiful, beautiful next step as we enter the world of health, digestion, and longevity. So for anybody who wants to try it, use the code all caps TBM15 for 15% off the first month. And again, that's all caps TBM15 for 15% off the first month. And those of you that have kids and teens out there, this is also wonderful for those ages. So thank you, Seed, for creating yet another perfect product. All right. On to the episode. And we're live. Oh my gosh, we were just laughing about how often one gets sick with a baby and a toddler. I mean, how old is your daughter?
She turned 1 last Friday.
Wow, congrats. She's a little Virgo. I love Virgo.
She's Libra, cuspy Libra.
Oh, Libra. That's right. She's right there. Well, funnily enough, I don't even know if that's a word, funnily, but I'm going to say it is. That's what I'm shooting for this next, I mean, as if it's my choice in my journey.
I like the goal.
The goal. I'm like, universe, I want exactly the cusper of Virgo Libra. And you got that.
Yeah, well, it's better for everyone because I am a Capricorn. My partner is a Capricorn. If we got a Virgo, this house would be...
It's just too much. It's too much. You guys wouldn't even leave. You'd be cleaning and working.
Totally. So we ended up with a Libra, but she's a Capricorn rising.
Wow. Oh, I love that energy. As a Aquarius with Leo, I'm so grateful for my cat moon. I think it's honestly what's created everything that I've put into the world. I give all of my thanks to Capricorn, who could take me through the steps of doing it.
It's intense. I mean, I think for people who come into our household, they're like, okay. Because I'm not just a Capricorn. I also have a Taurus rising.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like quite the duo when it comes to work. I will not be stopped.
You're like, I cannot stop.
But I'm really grateful for my moon in Aquarius because that makes it more interesting, right? I'm like, well, I'm going to work all day, but it's going to be in my own way.
Yeah. And you're like, and it's going to be green and help the world. It actually plays in so much to your career. It makes a lot of sense to me. You're like, we're going to go at it through science, but we're going to make it great and clean and awesome.
Totally.
Well, I want to go ahead and kind of tell people my background into discovering you, which actually you've been on my radar for years and years and years. I had been hearing about you a lot, of course. And then I read about you years ago on the Rip Tan blog, the Jenny Kane blog. You gave this at-home facial. And I tried it. It was so broke then. I was living in like a 300 square foot apartment. And after I did it on myself, I was like, this is amazing. Like, you can do this at home. This looks so good. And you've remained on my radar and come up. And in fact, while I was pregnant with Teddy, and we'll get into all of these skin things today, but I was talking to my good friend who's another really fun voice in green beauty, Britta, and she's like a gua sha queen. You probably know of her. And I was like, Britta, my skin's so dry, but I need really effective product. And she was like, Marie Veronique. And so I went and I ordered the products. Many of them were the ones that you formulated, but I'm also such an Aquarius that doesn't even read things. I just do. So I didn't know for a year that your name was on it. Like, it took me a year to figure that out. And it was so effective. I was doing like the vitamin CE instead of, any type of retinol during pregnancy. And it just helped so much. And so I've gone on to love the product. And I just want to be really transparent to the audience. I, out of my own pocket, have been using this product product, buying this product. And this particular line is the one that I have been using the longest, have bought with my own money, and then came to find out, of course, that you're involved in it, a voice that I've trusted for so long. I've been having so many questions, and I feel like people on my team and my girlfriends, we have so many questions. What is the routine? What should we be doing? So I had Jessica reach out to you and I said, I don't know what to use when, how, what are the steps? And so you put together a little protocol for me to use 10 days before we did this. And my skin looks better than ever. And so that's what leads us to today. I want this to be the encyclopedia that everybody's been looking for. So watch, this will become, out of every manifestation episode, our most viral one yet. So welcome. All of that said, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, there is so much to talk about. I could make this podcast like 20 hours because I have a lot of feelings about the skincare industry, products. And, it's so interesting because so many people I know in my community, friends, have said the same thing. They're like, you're involved with Marie Veronique. No one knows what I do. It's like this top secret thing. And I think it's just because I don't talk about it that much. But then they're like, wait a minute, I can use you and access you for all this information.
Which is so lucky that they have you for that. Okay, well, let's pop into this because there's a lot to cover. And the one thing I really wanted to start with that I think I've found on my own journey before I get into like the acne, the dry skin, the rosacea, et cetera, I think it's really important to talk about internal, external symbiosis because I personally have gone through like a crazy hormonal journey. And until I got onto this one protocol that finally really healed it, which I've made really popular called the Bean Protocol, I got to see in real time, oh, holy shit, that's how your skin changes. That's how you lose adult acne. That's how I lost my melasma. Everything to do with hormones. Like that's how I lost my hyperpigmentation in a lot of ways. So let's talk about internal, external symbiosis first.
Well, interesting enough, I'll just note how I found out about you was because I all of a sudden had all these clients on the Bean Protocol. And I was like, what? So I looked into your work and I'm such a fan. I grew up with bedtime stories of Joseph Campbell and my father was really into manifestation. And I think what you've created is such a wonderful, usable package of it all. So
thank you.
So internal, external, it's complicated. I want to say a comment on what you just said with hormones. The correlation to skin function and hormones is emphasized too much in the skincare industry. It is not as responsible for all these unwanted symptoms as we think. It is definitely an influence, right? Our hormones influence skin function for sure, but it is not the root cause for a lot of unwanted symptoms. And I feel really passionate about clarifying that because I get so many women, 35 years old coming to me saying, I have hormonal acne. I am trying to influence my hormonal balance and I can't heal my skin. And that's because they're trying to manipulate their hormones, which is very difficult. And so the way to do it is what you've done is you've gone to the source. The Bean Protocol heals the gut, helps you absorb your nutrients, reduces inflammation. I don't know that much about it, but it is one way in my understanding to kind of do that. And that will then influence your hormones. So hormones are more of like an indirect influencer in my mind. And mostly I emphasize that because you can spin in circles for days trying to guess which hormone is dominant, which hormone is the result of my melasma or my acne. And trying to do that, I've never seen it be successful. And then oftentimes, if you start to supplement with things that influence hormones, you end up in a worse situation.
Yeah, I don't play that game. I totally agree. I did for years, and that's how I can actually really sympathize with what you're saying, especially, having infertility issues for so long. I'm like, oh, it's the low estrogen, it's the this. And I don't think that Bean Protocol is the end all be all. I think many people can approach it in different ways, but it did help me take the supplementation out and take the hypervigilance of focus out. And like you're saying, restore the system. And most importantly, take out the trash. That's what it really does, is it takes the bile, the hormones in excess and all of that out through the bile is kind of the whole deal of it.
Yeah. So I think if you start with the gut, it's a good place because most people today have imbalances there, inflammation there, improper digestive function, malabsorption, and of course, microbiome, right? So that's very influential on skin function. So that's always a good place to look. I am a big data person, and so I will work with different medical providers to order gut analysis, urine analysis, just to get an idea of what's going on far before any supplementation, because you could spend thousands of dollars on supplements and not be absorbing and utilizing anything. So it's really important to look at sleep, to look at stress, to look at lifestyle. All of these are variables that are just as important as your skincare routine, but I always start with gut. It's the number one place that you go to. And now with all the research we have access to, there are patterns in gut function which directly relate to skin function. So there's like an acne pattern that we can look for in tests. There's an eczema pattern, things like that. And so I think that's really fun because people will so easily want to blame a food category, like, oh, my acne is because of dairy or my acne is because of gluten. And that's just not really true. Those are influencers of skin function for sure. Dairy stimulates the growth hormones, growth pathways in the skin, the same ones that turn on when we're infants and going through adolescence. It does this across the board, no matter who you are, no matter what kind of dairy. But whether or not that's going to manifest into a symptom such as acne depends on all these other factors as well. So we can't only make food good or bad, in relationship to the skin. So the internal body will have a huge influence. But if you want to see results faster, because the internal body can take years, as I'm sure you've experienced with the Bean protocol and such, it can take a really long time to sort of heal chronic imbalances, but you have to also address the skin topically. And that's when products come into play. So people that say, well, I've got acne and I'm just going to cure it through my diet or through my lifestyle. Sure, in time, because the body wants to heal, because the skin wants to heal, you could probably find balance and clear up your skin. But there's ways to do that a lot faster. And that is involving topicals, because we can influence all the way down at a cellular level and repair. And, we can influence the microbiome of the skin. We can create a healthy ecosystem, which will allow for a more harmonious microbiome, which can limit inflammation and make the skin essentially more resilient to unwanted symptoms. So I like to really look at it as like a hand-holding approach. We want to focus on all the categories of what the system requires in order to be healthy. And that is diet and sleep and stress and movement and our emotions. And then also topicals is one of those really important things to address.
And before we get into so much topical, because this will be quite topically heavy, I feel like I've done so much research on internal. I actually lack most of the knowledge on topical, which I think many people do who will be listening. But just for a quick little, not that this is a quick conversation, but yeah. I don't think that you're currently working with people anymore, because I just want to state that, because you will be bombarded after this episode. If you did want to direct somebody somewhere, and most people will be looking for an affordable way to do this, to have someone help with analysis or whatever, to direct them on the internal as they're approaching topically, what in a nutshell would you direct people to?
Well, first of all, I am still working with people.
What?
I see a few things happened. I moved to the middle of nowhere in Marin.
Smart, super smart.
So I live about an hour outside of San Francisco now. So I don't see people in person anymore. So that did change. I don't do facials. I do have a virtual consultation program set up that I've been doing for 7 years now. It is in collaboration with Marie Veronique now. So I still work with clients 2 days a week. And that can be as comprehensive as you want it to. So I collaborate with a lot of different licensed medical professionals. That's how we order tests. I'm not a doctor. I do not try to be a doctor, but I just am a really good middleman. So I can work with you, figure out what the root cause is, and then, set you up with different practitioners to get the data and kind of undergo the healing process. So that's one way. What I care a lot about is free help, access to really, really solid advice, because I think the skincare industry is immensely confusing. So I spend a lot of my time every single week making sure that the customer service program at Marie Veronique is really, really high level. So I do all of the training and education and hiring, and it's kind of a ridiculous program for being free in regards to what kind of advice you can get. So start there, go to Marie Veronique, get some free advice, get on a good regimen, and then we can advise on what the next steps would be. But aside from working with me or Marie Veronique, there's a lot of different resources. There's some great naturopathic dermatologists in the LA area. I can give you these if you want to attach them to this recording.
Yeah, that's great.
Acupuncturists, all sorts of different alternative practitioners, and, more Western functional medicine practitioners that are specializing on skin because of what the skincare industry has become. It is such a huge, huge business that a lot of people are focusing their energy there because there's so much demand. There's so many unwanted symptoms and so much confusion. There's a lot of different directions that you can go. It depends on what resonates with you. If you want to get physical treatments, acupuncture is a good way. If you're more data-oriented, functional medicine can be great because there's a lot of testing that you can do and get a really clear picture of what's going on. Most of those will end up being pretty supplement heavy, most of those options, but also include suggestions on all the other factors which influence skin and hopefully will address the root cause, So all of those, acupuncture, naturopathic medicine, functional medicine, all of those will definitely look at gut function and gut health, which is really the root cause for unwanted skin symptoms.
Well, and if I list off, because I wanted to hit all of these, because I feel like I don't hear, and most people don't hear enough as to why some of these are happening. If you just give just a little overview, because it's going to tie back into everything you just said. I know it will, but like a little direction, if they do walk into, let's say, an acupuncturist and they're like, this is what's going on. So I'm just going to start that a little bit. Acne and adult acne.
So I do this often for clients. I will write a script for them to take to their doctor. So there are certain species, it's pretty complicated, of bacteria that are typically present with acne. So if you have acne, what I would do is I would first go see my general practitioner, because this would be potentially the cheapest option where it's covered by your insurance. And I would emphasize your symptoms. It never hurts to be a little dramatic and say that, you have this history of stomach issues or hormonal imbalances and, chronic acne, and you want to get a stool analysis, and you want to look for permeability, you want to look for presence of pathogens, and you also want to look and see what quote unquote good bacteria or commensal bacteria are existing. Because with acne especially, it's really important to see if there is increased permeability or leaky gut, as more people are comfortable with that term, because then you're going to have so much more of a chance of being sensitized to certain chemicals in our foods and our environment because they have access to your immune system. And so a lot of people have acne because of leaky gut. So the good thing about that, it's not that hard to fix. So if you go to your general practitioner and you request a stool analysis, oftentimes they'll say yes. One Medical is a great place for that. If you're working with a naturopathic medicine, they will absolutely just order that for you if you have acne, I'm sure. And an acupuncturist, most of them are also acting a little bit like functional medicine practitioners and can order that too. I think there is enough of an understanding with acne of the role of the microbiome of the gut and the direct influence on skin function as well. So people are pretty compliant there. And then with your GP, the work there might end and you might have to seek elsewhere for some guidance on how to eat to support your body. And that's when kind of going to a specialist might be the easiest way. It's really hard to piece all of this together yourself, I'd say. There's so much conflicting information on the internet. Eat this, don't eat this. This is good, this is bad, this will contribute to acne. And I don't think anything is that black and white. It's really unique and individual to all of us, our constitutions, our history, our genetics, what we were born with, our environment, what is really the driving factor behind your symptoms.
And the next one that I know nothing about actually is rosacea that people were asking about.
Yeah, rosacea is such a big one. So rosacea is an immune response of the skin, which causes inflammation, dilation of the capillaries, redness. There's a couple different types of rosacea, some that's more kind of dry and flaky, some that's more prone to breakouts. It is a tricky one because you really, really have to dig deep and collect information on each person and try to figure out what the contributing variables are. There's a lot that has to do with gut function. There's a lot that has to do with blood sugar levels, insulin, systemic inflammation, nervous system function, right? There's such a correlation. You get stressed, your capillaries dilate, you flush. So that's involved in rosacea. And then also what you were talking about earlier, your body's ability to detoxify and remove toxins and excess hormones. Hormones are an indirect influence of rosacea as well. So that one is different than acne. So it still always is helpful. I know this is probably redundant, but to look at what's going on with the gut and are you absorbing your nutrients, because nutrients are essential for healthy skin function, for mitigating inflammation. So you want to make sure you're able to break down and absorb and utilize everything that you're eating. And you want to see if there is any, overgrowth of any pathogen there that could be stimulating the immune system and increasing systemic inflammation from there as well. So you can look at a comprehensive blood panel. You can look at liver function that way, hormonal balance. You can do, full lipid panel, the fats in your body, what you eat is really important, mitigating inflammation as well. So all of these acne, rosacea, dermatitis, these are all inflammatory conditions, right? With an immune system component. So you're always going to look at every part of the body that is involved with an immune system response and involved in an inflammatory kind of cascade within the body.
That makes sense. And does melasma it falls into that a little bit, more hormonally influenced? Is that correct?
Yeah, melasma is a tricky one also because it's not that there's something wrong with your hormones if you have melasma. It's just that your specific cocktail of hormones is making you more sensitive to the sun, so that the UV radiation has a different impact. So you end up with more hyperpigmentation. So people really struggle with that because you try to pinpoint which hormone is in excess and which hormone is responsible. And there's not really, you can't really find success that way, or I haven't seen that. So the best way with melasma is to protect yourself from UV so that you don't have more hyperpigmentation. And then to think about ways that certain things that you can control in your life. So how do you avoid excess hormones coming in? Probably avoid dairy, definitely go hardcore organic. You want to avoid other foreign hormones coming into the body that could influence your own hormonal production. And then you want to work on things that are going to balance your own body's hormonal production. So stress is a big one. Cortisol, stress hormone, that can influence melasma. Those are things that you can do on your own first when you're trying to approach melasma, and they will make a big difference. I have seen people have a lot of success with just thinking about blood sugar balancing, insulin production, cortisol, and melasma, because that has a huge effect on our hormones. And then there's a lot of different things we can do topically for that. But I think melasma is a fun one because it still confuses people.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no guidebook, but yeah, we know that there's a hormonal influence there. And so you can kind of get creative of how to change your diet and change your lifestyle in a way that's going to support your skin as well.
Great. Well, let's kind of kick off into a little sun damagey conversation there,
Okay.
because I saw that a lot. And it's something I'm so fair, I'm so freckly, and I am somebody who does love heliotherapy. I've been smart enough to not really do it on my face and chest and everything. But I am in the realm of confusion with sun damage. And from what I've learned it plays a pretty big role into anti-aging. Let's have a little conversation about if people are seeing sunspots, hyperpigmentation, any of that, or the freckles are coming up. Let's talk about it a little bit. What do we need to know?
Totally. Well, I would say that photo damage is responsible for like 99% of the signs of visible aging, sadly, because I have lived my life I was born in Ojai. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's sad for me. But so, exposure to UV rays damages the DNA. So it's precisely why the skin ages faster than any other part of the body. It's because we have consistent exposure. Even when we're not sitting in the sun, we have consistent UVA exposure, which degrades collagen, damages the DNA, breaks down the whole skin system. So it's something, everyone should emphasize protection in the best, safest way possible. That's the number one step for anybody who's like 20 years old. The only thing you have to care about is protecting yourself from the sun, because that will delay the signs of aging the most.
I can attest to this too. I really can. It's hard because I was so good at that in my teens and 20s. Oddly, again, I think that's my Capricorn moon. And when I did start practicing, because of all of the education in the wellness world, a lot of heliotherapy, a ton of sun to heal for about 3 years, it rapidly aged me. Full body rapidly aged me. Even if I look at my skin, I'm meant to be in like Scotland. I'm not meant to be in Los Angeles. You know what I mean? Like doing that. And I've gotten smarter because I do think it is something that does help me a lot. Like I do it in the very, very early mornings on my body for just a little bit, or the late evening. I've gotten really smart about that because when I was doing it at all times of the day and you can see it all over my body. It happened fast.
Yeah, it does happen really fast. And also, for people that went to tanning beds in their teens, you're really seeing the impact of that massive damage 10, 20 years later. And that's damage. There's only so much that we can do about it. The number one ingredient for repairing from photo damage is retinol. It absolutely works the best. Retinol is interesting to me because aging is all about entropy, energy out of the system that leads to, disorder and decay and ultimately death. And there's nothing we can do about that for ourselves, for the planet. But retinol is an ingredient that can kind of go against entropy and slow down the decay and is actually able to reverse previous photo aging damage. It can repair the DNA so that the skin starts to function well again. It starts to send out the right signal. It can normalize skin cell development. So, if you have this history of lots of UV damage, you want to utilize retinol. And then as we continue to live in California or wherever you live in the sun, If you like to be in the sun, I love it. I always have at least 20, 30 minutes of direct sun exposure on my body, not my face. But I think it's really important for being healthy and having healthy skin, and then protect with a good zinc oxide afterwards. But, there's a lot of cool stuff that we can do with formulation that we know through current research will help reduce the damage from UVs. So you absolutely need to include vitamin C. There's other cofactors there that you want to include as well, like E, and ferulic acid is a good one. Niacinamide, vitamin D3 is really important for preventing photo damage, supporting mitochondrial function, kind of energy of the cells. And you can also take that internally if you're in the sun a lot. It's water soluble. It's a really safe supplement to take, especially if you have history of skin cancer in your family. That's a good one to support skin functions. So B3, niacinamide, vitamin C, and retinol, those are the crucial ingredients that pretty much have to be part of your routine if you want to avoid the visible effects of the sun. And of course, sunscreen. So, and sunscreen subject is complicated because, well, for many reasons, but to simplify, I always suggest just zinc oxide only sunscreen. I avoid titanium dioxide. That's a free radical generator. I don't want that on my skin personally. So zinc oxide only, probably about like 17 to 20%. Absolutely avoid chemical filters. Those do so much harm to your skin, your body, and the planet. And zinc oxide has a lot of other great benefits for the skin, anti-inflammatory benefits. So it's a good one to use daily.
So I'm quickly interrupting this episode to invite you, if you're ready to start your manifestation journey, or if anything you've heard in our manifestation episodes has piqued your interest to begin. We have a la carte workshops in everything from the basics bundle, which is what we recommend to everyone who starts. It's the formula that actually teaches you how to manifest, unblocked inner child, and unblocked shadow. We also have a la carte workshops on love and money. But the real gem is the Pathway membership because it encompasses every single workshop we have. It's a year-long membership with full access to the few a la carte offerings we have and exclusive workshops not available anywhere else, such as the daily practice, which is what everybody in the Pathway uses, hopefully at least 3 times a week to daily, in order to truly create the new neural pathways that one needs in order to manifest, and houses the library of our deep imaginings, which is our unique hypnosis process that allows you to get into your subconscious and overwrite those old neural pathways, creating the new ones. You can use our special code EXPANDED, all caps, EXPANDED, to receive $20 off your first a la carte workshop purchase or $20 off your first month of the Pathway. Again, that's all caps, EXPANDED, EXPANDED.
And as you guys know, we have upgraded to a brand new platform with an incredible mobile app. Be sure to sign up for the new platform in the link in our show notes, and then you can use that login to access the new app.
Okay, now back to the episode. Well, let's get a little bit more extensive on retinol because it was such a huge question that came through so much. One that I've bounced back and forth on using myself, just not knowing enough about it and worrying that it's actually damaging my skin more because I'm out in the water every day. And the first questions are, and I think you guys have really nailed this. In fact, a lot of people will ask me about a clean, gentle retinol, and I always direct them to Marie Veronique because it's the first one that I've used. It's A, super effective, and B, I think is very clean. And I'll let you talk about that. And I think when I watched a video once of you guys talking about it, you use a stabilized C in it. Am I correct? Or in the original formulation, now you have the second, and we can go into all of that.
So yeah, at Marie Veronique, I would say the ingredient we care the most about is retinol. So I can talk a lot about this. It's a ingredient that has like 40, 50 years of research. So we really know what it's able to do in the skin, and we can be confident about its safety. That being said, there's a lot of confusion around retinol because the word retinol is an umbrella term. There's all these different forms of retinol, and they act very, very different within the skin. An important distinction to make is that when it comes to supporting the aging process, we want to use retinoic acid, right? Retinoic acid is what is able to attach to the retinoic acid receptor in the skin and stimulate the fibroblasts. And from there, we can kind of instruct them to perform a number of tasks. So what is most commonly known about retinol is collagen, right? Stimulates collagen production, but it does so many other wonderful things. You know, we can make more skin cells, normalize skin cell development and cellular communication, enzymatic activity, reduces inflammation, regulates sebum production, and also makes more collagen. So there's all these different retinoids out there, but not all of them convert to retinoic acid and are able to carry out those tasks. So that's important to make sure that you know what you're using and what it's capable of doing. So there's, phytoretinols, which are on the market right now, and those are great. They have a lot of great benefits for the skin, but they do not convert to retinoic acid. So there is no attachment to the receptors or stimulation of the fibroblasts. So that's just an important thing to understand. A little history about retinol, because I think it's interesting. So retinoic acid was something that skincare companies found to be very effective for the skin and really easy to formulate with. It's a very stable ingredient. And so that's why it was added to these tretinoin, and these prescription retinoids that dermatologists would prescribe for hyperpigmentation or aging. Retinol is much more delicate. It's really hard to stabilize and to formulate with. So that came about in products much later as a response to all the unwanted symptoms that people were getting from using retinoic acid. So these prescription retinoids can be harsh on the skin because you're basically saying, I'm going to guess that my skin needs this much retinoic acid. And it might be an overload of the fibroblasts in which the skin then responds by sending out signals of distress, which is redness, flakiness, peeling. It's called retinization, and it's pretty undesirable. And so that's why a lot of people don't want to use prescription retinoids and why retinol was started, came into existence. But it had to be stabilized with BHA or BHT, which we know has an undesirable impact on the microbiome of the skin. So the clean beauty sphere kind of wanted to avoid any retinol, which was stabilized by those ingredients. And so now at Marie Veronique, we encapsulate our own retinol, so it's super stable. And we have two different products, one that's retinol and vitamin C, because you can stimulate the fibroblasts all you want, but if you don't have adequate amounts of vitamin C, you can't make any collagen. So they work really synergistically, and that's our gentle retinol. And then we have a step up that we just launched, and that's something that I'm so excited about. We worked on that for like 3 or 4 years, and it's really not even about collagen, but it's about the actual fundamentals around aging, which is inflammation. And so that product is saying, okay, what do we know about skin aging? What do we know about inflammation and the source? And how can we correct that? And so that really goes down to deeper level fibroblast activity, correcting cell signaling. I could go into this in more detail. I'm like, how much do you want to know?
Yeah, no, this is great. And to make it layman's terms for people, because you kind of touched on that a little bit, why is this safe and clean? Because I think that a lot of they don't see that things are effective. Like I know for a minute it was really hot. There's this one company I tried. It was like vegan or veggie retinol. It's like there's that. It's like plant-based photo retinol, right? Yeah. Versus this is the only one I've ever seen results and never had any type of sensitive symptoms after.
So again, the phytoretinols, they're not going to convert. So you just don't get the same impact. There's no conversion to retinoic acid. So it doesn't do the same thing in the skin. When you use retinol, versus retinoic acid, you are telling the body to be the rate limiting step. So the body will convert as much retinol into retinoic acid that it actually needs to optimize skin function. So you end up just seeing less symptoms of distress. For example, if you get too much UV, the skin sends out symptoms of distress, of burning. The same thing with too much retinoic acid. But that's the beauty of using retinol, is that you just avoid all those symptoms or side effects because you're tapping into what the body needs. Because unfortunately, we don't get to stockpile collagen. Like, we can't just stimulate the fibroblasts all day long and make collagen and say, okay, great, now I've got a year's supply. The body has a very sophisticated schedule that we cannot influence too much, and it requires a lot of different nutrients. So it's a really complicated process. But by using retinol, it's safe because it's proven to be safe for the internal body. There's no unwanted influence there, but also you're not hyper exfoliating the skin as you would when you're using retinoic acid. You know, you're not speeding up the cellular turnover rate so high that you end up with a compromised barrier layer in which you are more vulnerable to UV exposure. So you just don't get that when you use retinol. You know, that's the most commonly asked question. If I use retinol, should I skip it in the summer? Or
yeah, that was the next. Yeah.
No, that's it. There's no relationship. So you always need to use sunscreen. But if you're using retinol, you're not more vulnerable to UV exposure. You're actually going to see less damage from UV exposure if you're using a retinol at the same time.
And back to the sunscreen, you know, because we do have to use it in conjunction. I am so dry. That's something we can get into in a little bit. Like, so dry. If I'm in the UK, if I'm on the East Coast where there's more humidity, it's not very bad. I think it has a lot to do with like the adrenaline things I've gone through, because I know it takes so much water to make anything happen in the body. So for me, for example, the only sunscreen I can use, and I actually would love to know your 2 cents on this. I've used every green, beautiful sunscreen out there. The only one I can use is literally Badger Baby's mineral sunscreen, because it has so much shea and stuff in it. You know, so there are 2 questions here for somebody who might struggle with that. It has the zinc oxide 18.75%. It seems pretty clean. If I use that once in the morning, A, is it an efficient one? And B, if I use it once in the morning after I apply all of my skincare, even though throughout the day I'm literally going to Hydrosol and reapply oil and then shea butter and stuff on top of it probably 4 times throughout the day because I'm that dry, is it still protecting me? Like, that's a whole question, a whole umbrella.
Well, I will say, first of all, that is the sunscreen I use also.
Oh, wow. I mean, I use it on my face, everything. It's because it's so hydrating.
Yeah, no, Badger's wonderful. They are a really cool brand. I agree. I find most sunscreens to be really drying. It's really hard to find a good one. We make one, it's tinted. I don't like tinted stuff on my face, so that's why I don't often use it, but it's people like it. We have been working on a color-free for way too long, and it's really hard to make a clear zinc oxide only, no titanium dioxide sunscreen. It's really challenging. And I will just for a second say that the industry makes it really hard because of the regulations. So you really have to look out for yourself. There's a lot of clean sunscreens out there, zinc-based sunscreens that are not what they say they are because of regulations. So you want to make sure that you're picking a brand that specializes in sunscreen or is transparent, one that you trust, because otherwise you won't get the protective benefits that you're looking for. But going back to your question, so it is suggested, because sunscreens are a drug, they are to prevent skin cancer, that you reapply every 2 hours. That's across the board. That being said, it's really slowly metabolized in the skin. So if you put it on in the morning, there will still be zinc oxide in your skin by the evening, by the next day, potentially. And it depends on what your day is like. You know, if you're using something that is water resistant, it's going to stay on longer. If you're out like sweating, swimming all day, you definitely want to reapply. I will be honest, I apply once in the morning and never again. But, I know that it's still on my skin. You can feel it. It's not a chemical-based filter, so it's not degrading. If you use a chemical-based sunscreen, those degrade with every interaction of UV rays. So that's where the 2-hour rule really comes from, because in 2 hours, it's not really protecting you anymore. That's the beauty of using a physical blocking agent like zinc oxide. It sticks around. It's on your skin. It's protecting you all day long.
This is going to be like the most privileged thing ever to share, but this is how much I care, because living in Los Angeles for so long, and being in my car so much, like I see it in my hands. I wasn't smart enough to use. I see it in my arms and my chest. So like I have ceramic 3mm on all my windows. Like I have them all tinted to not be able to absorb while I'm driving. I wear hats all day long. And just an average day, because I am, and we'll get into exfoliation and all of that, I am doing retinol, et cetera. I apply this once in the morning. And if I have my hat, I'm in my car, I'm not swimming, I can essentially get away with that one time that I apply it.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. You're fine.
Great.
Yeah.
That solves a lot for me. Okay. Cause I've been, and it dries me out each time, like reapplying and then doing the oil and the thing. So that's actually really helpful for anybody else that's really, really dry out there. Okay. Sunscreen. We know you hit the top things, what you should be looking for, the percentage of zinc oxide, what it should have in it. And I think that was really clarifying for me. And as we bounce around here a little bit, let's talk about vitamin C, because here's the little story I'll share. So I was lifting up my puppy into the back of my car, and my big border collie, who's so fast and so quick, jumped up, and his knobby head hit me right in my eye and busted it. And I've never had stitches or anything. So like, I'm like trying to text around because I don't mess around. I'm like, find me a plastic surgeon. I don't know any. I'm not going to the ER for that. Like I want somebody who can help with scarring. And all of that to say, while I was in this plastic surgeon's office, I was like, what do I need to know? And they're like, look, straight up, you have to be using, and we'll get into all of these, you have to be using a retinol, you have to be using a C, hyaluronic acid, which I want to get into, and you have to exfoliate. Like it has to get in and penetrate. So let's start with the C, because after that, I was like, you're right. I'm showing signs. Like I'm going to do all of this. You guys have most of all of that. So I had it in my cabinet. But let's talk about C first and why it's so important, even though you mentioned it a little bit with the retinol.
In addition to the sunscreen conversation with using a zinc, you want to use a C with your sunscreen to kind of synergistically work together and protect you. Antioxidants are really important because it's the free radicals from the UV that cause the signs of aging and the damage to the skin. So C is essential. You can say no vitamin C, no collagen. It's that simple. C is another very sensitive, delicate ingredient. It has to be stabilized. It can oxidize and not do anything good for you. So you definitely want to pick a product where you trust the lab, you trust the formulation, and you know that it's a stable vitamin C. There's also a lot of really cool vitamin C derivatives out there that we can add to formulations that have different positive effects on the skin. Because vitamin C is such an essential vitamin for the skin, we see it in so many products. And what happens when there's a hot ingredient, we also see a lot of sensitization to that ingredient.
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of poor formulations out there, and not even blaming products, but if your skin is very compromised and you add a ton of ascorbic acid to your skin, you'll probably over time get sensitized. And then what that looks like is next time you apply it, you have an inflammatory response and you might break out, you might have a rash, something like that. So we have 2 vitamin C products because I was working with so many clients that were quote unquote allergic to vitamin C and couldn't use it, but it's so essential as a topical ingredient. So we have a vitamin C serum that is no ascorbic acid, but just all derivatives that convert to ascorbic acid. So you skip the sensitization or the allergic response if you have been sensitized, and you can kind of heal the skin, close that epidermal dermal junction up so you protect the immune system, and then you can go back to using ascorbic acid. But yeah, that one for antioxidant benefits, photoaging, photo damage, collagen, every single person needs a vitamin C as part of their routine. And I would suggest you use it in the morning because that makes the most sense.
And the one you're talking about for people who are very sensitive, is it the vitamin C ferulic acid or serum, or is it the other one?
It's the other one. It's called C Therapy Serum.
Okay.
And then the one, if you have more stable skin or, more aging concerns, then I would use vitamin C ferulic. But yeah, and then, in our gentle retinol serum, we also have ascorbic acid, vitamin C, just to fill in that collagen part. But vitamin C has so many other awesome properties, positive impact on the circulation, scar repair, immune function, so many things. So, we must consume it because it's one of the only vitamins that our body does not make any of. So we have to consume it. We have to be able to break it down and absorb it. And then, unfortunately, there's so many uses for it in the body that very little is going to end up being prioritized for the skin. And that's why topical application is so important, because depending on what's going on with your body, you might use all of the vitamin C that you ate that day for other functions, and none will go to the skin. So you want to make sure you're really getting topical application.
Okay, so that's a must. Done. Check. Everybody listening, it's a check. Exfoliate. Because I actually love your mask. And I went back and forth. I'm like, do I do it? Don't I do it? Because I'm just going to see more sun, et cetera. How important is it? How often should we be doing it?
So I think my response to this, because I work with only symptomatic skin, I usually suggest avoiding exfoliation because it's confusing what has happened in the industry. Exfoliation is a method of instant gratification.
Yeah. I mean, it looks amazing after you do it.
Totally. And what's wrong with that, right? We all want that. Put on a mask, exfoliate, you get to see that lower layer of skin cells, you look all bright and shiny, cool. However, it's doing that in excess, not in moderation, that causes problems, because the other hot topic out there is called barrier function. Exfoliating breaks down the barrier layer of the skin, and that can lead to problems. So exfoliation is not wrong. None of these things are wrong. It's not black and white like that, but too much of it, or if you do it improperly, or if you are not a good candidate for it, right? If you have a lot of atopic dermatitis or rosacea or acne, maybe you don't want certain types of acne, maybe you don't want to exfoliate too much. But if you have healthy, stable skin, you can exfoliate once a week for the immediate impact. But I guess I don't see it as having much more than an immediate impact. It is not something I associate with skin health, and it doesn't really impact penetration if you're using products that are formulated with the right delivery mechanisms. Those products will penetrate because there's penetration enhancers in there, and they will make their way down to the layers where they're supposed to go. It's not like if you didn't exfoliate, Lacy, you would have all this buildup on your skin and nothing could get through.
That's my worry. Literally. I was like, that's what they mean.
No, it doesn't work that way. I would say what is more important or effective, if you're worried about that, would be to do a really nice, thorough oil cleanse, because then you're going to get all the LA pollution, all your sunscreen, all your makeup, whatever you wear every day. You'll really, really get that off. And so you'll have this clean, strong, healthy skin underneath without breaking it down. There's so many different parts of the exfoliation conversation to get into, because we can look at lasers, right? Lasers are a method of exfoliation. With certain lasers, you're actually vaporizing the top layers of the skin. And that's mostly to induce trauma. so that the skin renews itself and is stimulated to produce a lot more collagen. So then you get this boost of collagen. But what you're also doing is vaporizing the protective layer of the skin that protects your immune system, that protects your internal body. So it's not bad. There's a good response. There's good results. You just have to be really, really smart about it. I work with a lot of people who want to do more kind of intensive treatments, lasers, and none of them are wrong. It just, you really have to assess what's the best thing for you. I just want to stress that if you're symptomatic, if you have acne, please don't think it's exfoliation that's going to solve your acne. It probably will make it worse.
It doesn't sound like it's a must,
No.
like a C or a retinol. It doesn't sound like it's going to have the benefits that outweigh, that barrier function. I'm going to ask about 2 more products, and then I want to get into barrier function as a conversation because I think this is so important. I've heard it so much as somebody who's tried lasers, who's done X, Y, and Z, and I think it really makes a huge difference. But the big one also that everybody's saying, if you're dry like I am, you have to use hyaluronic acid. What do we think on all of that?
I think you mean hyaluronic acid.
Got it. We're on it. Never can say it correctly. Glad we're having this conversation.
Everybody. Yeah, hyaluronic acid naturally exists in the skin. It's a good one. It's in the acid mantle. It helps with the moisture barrier. It feels good. It has like a plumping effect of the skin. There's all different molecular weights. So you, again, need to look at the products that you're using and trust that the formulators know what they're doing and that they're using the right ones that are going to have an impact on the skin. And that can sometimes be reflected in the price because some are more expensive than others, certain forms of hyaluronic acid. We include it in most of our products because it's just one of those, it's like not that exciting to talk about. I'm like, hyaluronic acid, it's part of the skin. Yes, we want it, but it's not like a game changer. It's not going to change your skin entirely. What really is going to change your skin if you have dry skin is the barrier function. It's your fats that you're consuming and able to produce in your sebaceous glands. It's that lipid layer that is going to help with the moisture retention and also how capable your skin is at regulating the water balance. But that lipid layer is really what's responsible for that comfortable sensation of moist, plump skin. And hyaluronic acid is one component of having healthy skin. I'm not saying it's not a great ingredient. I'm just saying you're not going to get very far if that's all you're focused on.
Got it. Even when you're out buying like the one, because a lot of brands will market theirs, you're saying like what would be in Marie Veronique, for instance, that would be something that's rich in this, but it's doing so much more as well. What would be that product?
So we have a product called the Soothing B3 Serum.
Oh, love it. It's like, have never used it before you gave me, the regimen that I did the last 10 days. And I don't even know what it's doing beyond the little thing that you've sent, but it has made a world of difference. Like my skin, like even the woman who supports us, in housekeeping, she's like, what are you doing? Your skin looks so good. Like she cares enough to notice, and so let's hear about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I gave you that one because of your history of sun exposure and living in LA. Vitamin B3, niacinamide, body makes it in the gut. It is an essential antioxidant for scavenging free radicals created by mitochondria, and it really helps reduce the impact of photo damage. It is an essential vitamin for the skin. So that's why I wanted you to have that. But our formulation has a lot of hyaluronic acid in there with it. So you get that kind of gel texture and the plumping effect and kind of glowy effect after using it. It's a really, really good product for anyone with inflammation, whether that's from acne or dermatitis, rosacea. Helps resume proper energy production of the cells for the skin. It's a really cool product, really good ingredient.
Well, that covers that. still not going to say it correctly, hyaluronic
acid.
Got it.
And I'm not downplaying it. It's just not the one ingredient I'm the most excited about, I guess.
Right. It sounds like it's in combination with, it's a wonderful booster together with a formulation.
Exactly.
How about, I see this in the estheticians I use, they love stem cell serums and sprays. How does that really work topically?
Well, I'm conflicted about this because I'm assuming the ones that your estheticians you're going to are using plant-based stem cells.
There's one in particular, I'll name it. It's called Guru that my one esthetician loves, and it's responsibly donated. So I'm assuming it's not plant-based, but I don't notice a difference when I use them ever.
Okay, so the conversation around stem cells and peptides, I kind of will cluster them together because they come up together. Stem cells essentially work by, going into the body and figuring out an imbalance and correcting it. That's all great. There's a lot of research around stem cells is that obviously with stem cell transplants, they're incredibly effective. In topicals, there's just a lot of things that might influence them having a positive effect on the skin. So it comes down to the formulation, other cofactors in the product. Are these stem cells going to get to the place that they need to go so they can do the work they're meant to do? So there hasn't been a lot of really appealing data coming out around stem cells and topicals that I've read where I'm like, this is going to work in a way that I'm going to put my focus here and start to use these in products. I see retinol as a much better alternative because it goes through the whole process of stimulating and taking away the trash at the same time. And that's the same thing with peptides. So peptides are protein fragments. And the difference with peptides and retinol is that peptides are meant to send repair messages to the fibroblasts. But the retinol attaches to the retinoic acid receptor, which will tell the fibroblasts to do a lot of things. So it's a complete picture with retinol, whereas with peptides, you're just saying like, help, there's an emergency, repair. But it doesn't actually do anything in terms of waste removal, which I would love to talk about that because if we don't have proper waste removal in the skin, everything gets messed up. And that is the underlying big cause of aging and inflammation in the skin.
And what does that look like, waste removal? Like what's responsible for that?
So we have fibroblasts that make new skin cells, and they have a limit where they are able to do that well, about 50 times. And then they turn senile. They go into senescence. And this is kind of going back to that entropy factor. And healthy skin cells receive messages that they should die and go away. And then they're replaced with new ones. But if a cell goes into senescence, it misses the message and it just sticks around and it accumulates. And so then you get this buildup of these skin cells that don't function optimally anymore. And the immune system reacts to it by producing these inflammatory cytokines, and then you have inflammation. So there is a really sophisticated process within the skin of removal where it says, hey, you're dying, die so I can take you away. But if we hyperstimulate and we accelerate the rate in which these cells go into senescence, then we're in more trouble. And then we're having, really poor quality of collagen and elastin and kind of jumbles the whole messaging system and really destroys skin function overall. So retinol, going back to retinol always.
So I hope this is the main takeaway.
Broken record. But what it does is it says, hey, senescent cell, you need to come with me. Get the message, die. And so it cleans up. And so then you have just these healthy skin cells, essentially.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, we did. And in case you're not totally ready to join the pathway yet, I wanted to share a few of our free offerings that I'll often suggest to people as a little bit of a blueprint to get them started on their manifestation journey. The first place I like to direct people completely for free is the motivation. You can see it linked below or on our homepage as our testimony library. And it's categorized by different subjects, whether you're calling in career, money, love, wellness, and much more. When you're reading about a member's experience of what they manifested, you're actually seeing to believe and showing your subconscious that that very thing is possible for you. The second place I like to direct people is to the free clarity exercise, which is also linked below. In it, you get to try our own unique hypnosis process, learn about the science, and some journaling prompts. And the best part about this, you'll get a tiny taste of what it's like to go into your hypnotic state, bring your subconscious forward, and create new neural pathways while receiving clarity. And the third thing, if you haven't listened to it on this podcast yet, please go back to the episode titled Manifestation 101, where you'll learn the basics of neural manifestation to truly understand this process. So go ahead and check out those free resources, the motivation, the free clarity exercise, and the episode Manifestation 101, all linked below. And in an effort to make sure to have representation in this process series, go ahead and submit any process testimonials you have, especially to our LGBTQ+ community, our BIPOC, as well as the Ys, which is anyone in the community who is 45 and over.
We hope you guys really enjoyed this episode as much as we did, and stay tuned for part 2, where Lacy and Kristina are going to dive into each phase of skincare approaches from 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on, food and diet recommendations, at-home treatment versus specialist treatment, red light therapy, the pros and cons of Botox, injectables, fillers, regimens with pregnancy, and sleep hygiene, all from a holistic skin perspective. So you can enjoy part 2 of the mini masterclass in a few weeks. Have a good one, everyone.